Welcome into another episode of the Laser Bros podcast. We're your hosts, Logan and Luke Lazarchik. Today, Thursday, January 9th, 2025. It's finally playoff NFL football. Week 18 was kind of a sludge to get through. There was only a few games that really mattered. Most of the games they mattered because of draft positioning, but there's only a few games that actually had playoff ramifications for seeding as well. Luke, I know we won't be talking about the games from Week 18. We'll talk about them more when we make our predictions for this wild card round. But I mean, what was your overall thoughts from Week 18? And I know there wasn't a lot to take away from it because of what I just said.
I mean, my camera just turned off. There we go. I mean, you kind of saw some things in Week 18. I mean, I think the draft movement was big. Everything else kind of went as expected. Lions, Vikings. I felt good about the Lions and just reaffirmed that even with all their injuries and everything. So I think it kind of re-cemented the Lions as the number one team in the NFC. I think Week 18 into that. And then obviously now Titans have the number one pick. Patriots went down to 4 from 1, so that was kind of huge. And that was, disappointing for Patriots fans. But Joe Milton looked good. So I don't think there's too much stuff to take away. Just that draft movement and the Lions. And that the Chiefs backups are not.
Well, I don't know if Carson Wentz is dependable if Mahomes goes down.
Yeah,
at all.
I mean, but he had the starters, and
that's true. I mean, I do think that game was. I didn't take much away from that game at all from either side. I think that game was kind of.
I think it was good for the Broncos though, because I think it's good when teams beat teams they should, and that's like the Ravens. The problem I have with them, they lose to teams they shouldn't, but the Broncos, I mean, they just whooped the Chiefs, and they fully should have. And I overthought it and thought Chiefs were going to be close, but I guess it's good for the Broncos just to, hey, if we're facing bad, we're on a whole different tier than backups or anything close to that.
Yeah, other than the draft positioning, coaching firings, Black Monday is what they call it, is another big thing that comes from Week 18. The fallout from that, we have 6 new head coaching jobs. And we'll talk about that as well before we make our wildcard predictions. There's also college football tonight. So I know both of us have bets on Penn State tonight. So hopefully Penn State can pull through. And I think the value on Penn State was really good tonight. So I'm happy that we got to bet on that before. I don't know if the line's even going to flip at this point, though.
Yeah. And there's some good NFL talent there. Obviously, Notre Dame has a lot of defensive talent. And then Penn State have Abdul Carter, edge rusher. But they also have Tyler Warren, best tight end in the draft. But then also Drew Aller could get himself. It seemed like he was going to stay in college, but keep seeing little rumors that if he plays really well in the playoff, he could go in the draft. And honestly, let's say they go win national title and he has 2 great games back to back.
He probably was number 1.
I'd rather have him over Shedeur or Cam Ward. I mean,
he's not. I don't know if he's even 22 yet. And I know those 2 players are older prospects. I think Shedeur's already 22, 23. Cam Ward's already 23. So I think Drew Aller, because of what you just said, and to be honest, he has the most raw talent. He has the best arm out of them. He's a prototypical.
He's 20
quarterback.
He's 20. So he turns 21 in March.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. It's always kind of scary to throw in a 20-year-old right into a starting gig right away. You don't know if they're ready yet. A lot of players, they sit for a year or 2 in development. Tennessee and Cleveland, I mean, they have the top 2 picks. Cleveland's a disaster. I mean, I don't know if I'm a rookie quarterback and in his draft if I want to go there. So, but I get your point of if he wins a national title, I think he should enter the draft regardless, unless he wants one more year to develop in college, which is totally understandable. But next year's draft class is going to be much more competition in terms of quarterback than this year. I think this year's a weak quarterback class. You could be a number 1 pick just because it's a weak class.
I mean, yeah, but he also could lock himself up for some NIL money and then go get number 1 pick, maybe a better situation. I think his options are open, but if they lose today, I think he's just returning. But if they go and win at all, very interesting. Very interesting.
Let's shift our focus back to the NFL. Let's talk about those NFL coaching openings. So as I mentioned, there's 6 jobs available right now: Bears, Patriots, Jaguars, Jets, Raiders, and the Saints. I mean, I think there's always a discussion of which one's the best job. There's a report this morning that Mike Vrabel is the heavy favorite to land in New England.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's the best job available right now, just because you have the quarterback there, front office ownership's good, cap space, you have over 130 million in cap space to play with. The pieces are there. You have a top 4 pick. I think that's the best job of the bunch right now. Now, I think there could be other jobs made available here in the next week or so based on playoff outcomes as well. But right now, I think that's the best job by pretty much a landslide, in my opinion.
I had that as well. I honestly thought you were going to say Bears, but I mean, I'm not actually that big on the Patriots front office and ownership, but it's just so much better than what is out there. I mean, Bears, we know. Raiders, I actually have Raiders third on my little 1 through 6 list because I like the idea of Tom Brady kind of running things, and he's going to be some type of GM de facto guy, and I mean, it's Tom Brady. And like he's kind of good at everything he does. Even announcing, he was not good to start. He's got a lot better. It'd be even better for the Raiders if he just kind of said, "Okay, that's my 1 year of announcing." But then, like, you have the Jets, a lot of talent but dysfunction. Jacksonville, you may have a quarterback. You may get to pick your own GM, but dysfunction. And the Saints are just boring.
I think the Saints are the worst job. Jaguars are probably 5th.
But they don't have the lowest floor of the jobs. Like Saints could be a job where like you're fine. But
the Saints are going to go get like Aaron Glenn or something. It's not
sounds
gonna
like
be
it's Glenn.
A splash higher.
I like Glenn though, but I made a favorite fits in a predictions list, and yeah, I like Glenn, but I feel like Saints. That's just such a I don't know.
The Bears, to me, I mean, I think they should be on top of this list, but ownership, I just don't trust at all. Ryan Poles, I don't trust at all. Well, I mean, I think they have the talent. Like, of all these teams, I think they have the most talent.
Yeah.
But I just don't trust the front office at all. I don't trust the ownership as well. And I think that has it kind of sliding down the list. But, like, Jaguars, I wouldn't want that job. Like, people who go to Jacksonville, their careers kind of die as head coaches there. Raiders, I think, could be compelling, but now they don't have a top pick to go get a quarterback. So what are they going to do at quarterback? That if they had like a top 3 pick, I'd probably have them much higher on this list. But
there's a lot of teams.
I don't know. They don't have an answer at quarterback, so it's like
there's a lot of teams where I'm just like, go get whichever Vikings quarterback you can between Darnold or JJ, and we'll see. The playoffs would determine a lot of that. But like I would like Aaron Glenn with the Raiders, and then you have Brady as the de facto GM with Tom Telesco, and Brady probably helping with whatever quarterback. But I don't know. I think Ben Johnson would also be interesting to the Raiders. I think Ben Johnson and Vrabel are easily the top 2 guys, and I think that's interesting.
I'm starting to believe that Ben Johnson doesn't leave.
He may not.
Because the Patriots, I think they're going to go get somebody that sets a culture, and Ben Johnson's going to be a rookie head coach. I think they kind of want to get some stability in there. They haven't had that since Tom Brady and Belichick have left. Belichick's only been gone a year, but they really haven't had stability since Brady's left. I think they're going to go with Vrabel. He's proven. He had the Titans as a 1 seed and in the AFC Championship game in separate years. I think that's where they go. And then if I'm Ben Johnson, I mean, I don't think he's interested in the Bears job because of the issues that we talked about just a couple minutes ago. And these other jobs I don't think are compelling at all. Like Jacksonville, you have a talent quarterback, but do I really want to deal with that ownership? And it's not really a team that succeeds. Like, when's the last time Jacksonville I guess they went to the playoffs a couple of years ago. Yeah. But once again, they find themselves as a top 5 pick again, which is where
you have to love the quarterback, be able to take Bulky out and put someone in who you love. You'd have to have this vision in your mind where like Brian Thomas Jr. is like a top 5 receiver and just him and Lawrence or something. They have some talent, but they don't have much. But they have some talent. You have 2 nice running backs, you have a receiver, edge rusher, but yeah, I don't know. That's a weird one if Ben Johnson goes there of all the places. And then Jets are interesting. It seems like I think they're going to hire Rex Ryan. That's my gut feel.
No, I think that as well. I've kind of been thinking that for like a little bit now. But I mean, Jets, I think if you told me that you can get rid of Rodgers, the thing is, I don't know what they do at quarterback. Like Sam Darnold may be out there, but I don't see Sam Darnold going back to New York. Yeah, it's just I don't know. The Raiders and Jets are very similar situations for me. Mm-hmm. in the fact that they have the talent around the quarterback, but they don't have the quarterback in place, and that's why I think that they're not that compelling jobs right now. And
that's
ownership,
why
I also don't like as well.
Drew Aller changes so much. If you had a third quarterback in there who's in the first round, and so that's why tonight's game is also big because I think Marcus Freeman, I think he'd be a good coach NFL. He's done well in Notre Dame. They're potentially going to a national championship. I think he could be initially one. I'd like him on the Jets. Pete Carroll, I still think is.
I'm over the Pete Carroll stuff. I really like. I don't think in Seattle we kind of saw it just go south
I don't know.
each and every year.
We said that about Sean Payton. He's been, and then people are saying Sean Payton was bad.
Okay, but Sean Payton, he took 1 year off, and then
Pete Carroll's he's taken 1 year off.
I don't think Pete Carroll is. I think he's more. I just don't see him as a head coach anymore in the NFL.
He's won a Super Bowl, nearly won 2. I think if you put him on like Jacksonville, he'd be able to
go. I'm not taking that away from him, but that's a decade ago.
And they went to the playoffs. I mean, they weren't going to Super Bowls, but Jacksonville would be interesting. I think Bears, I kind of like him on the Bears. He kind of said he can be like, hey, culture. And I think Bears' best fit would be Vrabel, but I just think he's a Patriot. I don't know. It's interesting. I think whoever gets
if Bears hire the Cardinals offensive coordinator,
they're not. That's so dumb. No,
if like he's not that good of a coordinator. Like if they brought him in,
or the Dolphins, Anthony Weaver, their DC, it's like he has done like they were not good on defense. They had some improvements, but
I'm quite shocked that Miami already like announced that they're keeping their head coach and GM. They have no playoff wins with those two in place. I was very shocked that right after the game it was already announced that those two will already be back in 2025.
There are some questions like we thought the Giants could have been open, that left. Dolphins, Bengals was a thought, but it looks like they're keeping.
Okay, the Giants one. Here's the problem. John Mara, he said that he's basically run out of patience. Like they better figure out quick. It's a recipe for disaster. You're already basically setting up the fact that those two have 1 year left. And let's say they draft a quarterback and it doesn't work out. They're both out the door, and now you have a quarterback with a new coach and a new GM in place in 2026.
Yeah, I don't know what's. But I think Joe Schoen had a really good draft. Brian Daboll, we know, can put stuff up on offense. I think it's just like the odds are you're not hiring people who are better.
Well, I don't think Joe Schoen's that good of a GM.
I mean, I think he's not a great free agent GM, but I think drafting, like, Giants had a pretty solid rookie class this year. Obviously, Evan Neal was a miss, but that just sucks. But I mean, Tyron Tracy's a good pick. They had some good defensive rookies. I'm
surprised he's just not fired based on the fact of what Saquon's done this year. They let Saquon walk. They signed Dale Jones. I would keep Dable, but I would not keep Shane.
He's not the worst GM, but he's not the best. Maybe he can. I don't hate keeping them, even though, I don't hate it because, I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know. A lot of what are you gonna do at quarterback situations going on. I feel like we could pencil in Aaron Glenn for Saints. I think the Bucs OC Liam Cohen, I believe that is, he would be interesting. He's done pretty well.
I would see him going to Jacksonville if he was.
That's not where Jacksonville needs a guy who's been a head coach or Ben Johnson. They need a guy who's been a head coach or whose name is Ben Johnson. Everything else.
The thing is, here's the thing. The thing for the Jaguars at this point, they need the best guy in place that can develop Trevor Lawrence because Trevor Lawrence has been through 2 head coaches now. He'll be on his 3rd head coach in 4 or 5 years. I mean, that's pretty tough for a quarterback to overcome and develop when he's constantly in a coaching carousel. So I think they have to get this right. I would go after an offensive guy, and we have to develop Trevor Lawrence from the Jaguars. That's the first.
Fine with the.
That's the first line. No, I'm going.
I think culture. I think culture over offensive guy. A culture offensive guy would be great, which I think Ben Johnson could be. I think Ben Johnson's very interesting. We don't know what he fully is, but we know he's pretty good on offense. But Ben Johnson is just I still think he's the best one. If you can convince Ben Johnson to go to Jacksonville, I feel like that's a good sign because he is quite picky.
And the Patriots, Jerome Mayo, I think, was fired, or they wrote that letter probably a few days in advance
No,
before
yeah,
that game
it
even
is
started.
gone.
Because that came out about 30 minutes after their game ended. That they fired Jerome Mayo.
I'm
The
pretty sure
decision to
they're-
fire him was already made before the game.
I bet they're gonna hire Vrabel like this in the next week.
Yeah, I think so too. So, I mean, I think there's gonna be a couple other jobs open here next week, potentially. So maybe there'll be better jobs on the market as well. But right now, Patriots for me are the clear top place you want to be if you're a head coach looking for a job.
Yeah.